Paul was in the city, gathering supplies, when suddenly the sirens started blaring like a car alarm in the middle of the night. Without wasting time, he ran through the streets, dodging screams and explosions like a video game character on hard mode. Amid the chaos and the thick black smoke covering everything, he managed to reach an abandoned house on the outskirts, where he found his babies, whom he had to raise alone. 15 years passed, and those babies were now healthy, grown teenagers, still living in the same place and going out during the day to gather supplies. As soon as the sun began to set, Joseph would cover the windows and call Rocco, the family dog, while Paul waited outside for Thomas, who was always late because he liked helping the Rose family on their farm. Paul, being the classic strict father, gave the boy a lecture, threatening to keep him within the property limits if it happened again. Joseph, of course, didn't miss the chance to tease his brother, which quickly escalated into a wrestling match, promptly interrupted by Paul with a movie-worthy speech. "You are men, not animals." After that, they had dinner and played chess. But the family moment was cut short by Rocco, who began scratching the floor and growling. Like a true horror movie protagonist, Paul saw this as a bad omen. And wasn't he right? Minutes later, the sound of violent knocks at the door signaled that the creatures were trying to get in. What followed felt like an alternate scene from A Quiet Place, except with more screaming and less strategy. The banging lasted 10 seconds, then 20, and the last one was just a frustrated strike. Joseph, who apparently had a detective-level investigative mind, noticed a pattern and theorized that the monsters were testing the house's defenses. The next day, after checking the door full of claw marks, they decided to reinforce it. While Thomas chopped wood, Joseph was busy building something mysterious in the barn. Paul, curious like any father who sees his child working on a suspicious project, went to investigate. Joseph confessed that he was trying to build a vehicle because he was sick of feeling trapped. Paul, to everyone's surprise, managed to get the car running with a few adjustments, and, excited, decided to take the boys for a drive to teach them how to handle it. After their automotive adventure, he sent them to fetch materials from the river to reinforce the windows. Thomas was furious because he wanted to go to the farm, and like any irritated teenager, he blamed his brother before storming off. On the way, he decided to make an unauthorized pit stop to see Charlotte, the girl from the farm, leaving Joseph to go to the river alone. Now, let's get to the big horror movie moment. Joseph, tied to the car to avoid being swept away by the current, which already proves he thinks more than some dumb characters in these movies, descended into an abandoned ship to search for supplies. There, he found a pin-up magazine poster, which left him temporarily hypnotized. But his moment of admiration was interrupted by a swarm of disgusting insects, forcing him to escape in a hurry. Meanwhile, Thomas and Charlotte shared cute moments in the field, talking about bizarre apocalypse theories. But the romance had to be cut short because night was falling, and everyone knows that walking around after sunset is a terrible idea. Speaking of bad ideas, in his rush to get back, Thomas tripped and fell into a hole in the ground. Joseph, whose mission was simple, find his brother and return, completely missed Thomas and went home. Realizing his son was missing, Paul set out with Rocco to find him. Thomas, for his part, woke up in pain and, upon lighting a match, found himself face to face with a monster trying to grab him. Nothing like a scare like that to make you forget any pain. He quickly stabbed the creature's hand, but another one appeared and grabbed his face, nearly suffocating him. Fortunately, Paul and Rocco arrived just in time, with Paul rescuing his son and tearing the creature apart. But the trio got trapped in the cave, and to make matters worse, the monsters began digging and blocking the exit with dirt. Paul, always ready with improvised solutions, placed a flare in the hole to blow up the invaders. It worked, but he got injured in the process. Meanwhile, back at the house, Joseph had his own mad scientist moment. He set a trap and captured one of the monsters. Congrats, kid. You now have a terrifying pet. The next morning, worried about his father and brother's delay, Joseph took the car and set out to find them. Thomas, meanwhile, was digging like a desperate miner and finally managed to open a hole to escape the cave. With Paul badly injured, the brothers worked together to bring him home. When they arrived, Thomas finally noticed the creature trapped under a blanket. Joseph, excited like a mad scientist, explained that light bothered the monsters and that he wanted to study them. But Thomas, in I'll handle this my way mode, wanted to kill the creature immediately. The brothers' fight led to the monster escaping and hiding under the bed. In a moment of pure desperation, Rocco started barking, and the creature prepared to attack. Joseph held the monster down, Thomas decapitated it, and the day was saved, for now. But Joseph, still obsessed with his research, took the body to the barn for dissection while Rocco and a swarm of insects watched. That's right, folks. There's no time to relax in a post-apocalyptic world. The most interesting part? The film's creatures were inspired by insects and natural predators, making them even more terrifying. Joseph thought dissecting the monster would help him understand what the hell it was. But, spoiler alert, it didn't. Frustrated, he joined Thomas, who had a brilliant idea. Take Paul to the Rose farm. Joseph doubted the kind-hearted couple would help, and surprise, he was right. But Thomas dragged him along anyway. When they arrived, Charlotte's parents informed them they had no medicine to spare. Charlotte protested but was completely ignored. The only thing the family allowed was for Thomas to stay, because apparently selective hospitality was the new trend. Joseph, furious, stormed off and Thomas followed, leading to a fight. In the heat of the moment, Thomas decided that strangling his brother was more effective than words, but soon realized that might not be the best conflict resolution strategy. Joseph, out of patience, stuffed their father into the car and took off, while Thomas stayed at the farm, finally getting a decent meal for the first time in weeks. Little did he know, the night still had a lovely torture session in store. Turns out, trying to take medicine from the Roses without a receipt had severe consequences. Thomas was accused of theft, tied up in the barn, and about to lose his feet. Yes, these guys took punishment to another level, but fate intervened. The ground caved in, a worker fell, and before anyone could react, a monster leaped from the hole. Meanwhile, Charlotte's parents learned that candles could be fatal even outside horror movies. Investigating a noise, her father lit a candle, and boom, monsters appeared. Her mother tried to run but got a faceful of monstrous vomit before being attacked. Charlotte heard everything and, upon stepping out, found a horrifying scene. In the barn, the workers discovered that bullets weren't very effective against the creatures, and one by one, they became a midnight snack. Thomas managed to break free by knocking everything over, and when a monster lunged at him, Charlotte fired a perfect shot, saving the day. The two fled, realizing the Rose Farm was no longer a safe haven. Big shocker. The final showdown involved gasoline, explosives, and a burning cigarette. What could possibly go wrong? Spoiler, everything. But in the end, Paul sacrificed himself, the house exploded, and the trio escaped in a freezer rolling down a hill. They buried their loved ones and set out to find a new home, preferably one without killer monsters emerging from the ground. Before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe to help the channel grow. See you in the next video.